Hello, and welcome back to another Common Core Algebra 2 video. Tonight's focus is on long division of polynomials. Now, it's probably been a long time since you heard that word long division. I'm thinking back to maybe like 3rd or 4th grade. Most of us have been using our calculators for so long, so we're going to really slow down and just talk about long division in general before we get to the polynomials. Do these words ring a bell to you? Dividend, divisor, quotient? Dividend is the number that we're dividing into. Divisor is what we're dividing by. And quotient is our result. So let's kind of slow the bus down here and go back to 3rd grade and try to remember, how do we divide? Have you done this in a long time? So without using your calculator, let's slow down and talk about long division. So the first thing I say to myself is, okay, 13. How many times can 13 go into 1? Well, it can't. So then I just expand this out. Well, if 13 can't go into 1, can 13 go into the first two numbers, 15? Well, yeah, it can go in there once. So I put a 1 on top here. And then I take 1 times 13, and that gets me 13. Now, what I like to do is wrap this in parentheses and put a minus sign there. And the reason we're wrapping in parentheses is because we always have to distribute, and that'll come into play in a few moments. So now I subtract 15 minus 13 is 2. And then you bring down the next term. Is this looking familiar? Alright, now you play the game again. How many times does 13 go into 27? Well, 13 times 2 is 26, so that's the biggest amount. So I'll put a 2 up here, and that gets me 26. I'm going to wrap it in parentheses and subtract. Okay, so now it's 27 minus 26 leaves me with a 1. Bring down the next term. And how many times does 13 go into 13? Well, that's once. I'll multiply it out. 1 times 13 is 13. And do you remember what it's called with what you get left over with? That's called your remainder. So I have 0 as a remainder, which is awesome. That tells me that this multiplies evenly, or divides evenly. 13 evenly goes into 1573. So how do you know if you're right? Well, what you can do is you can take, your divisor and your quotient and multiply them to see if you get your dividend. So let's see. 121 times 13. Now, just like dividing has been a while, have you multiplied like this in a while? Let's check. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 1 is 3. Now, you kind of leave a 0 here. And now I'll do 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 1 is 1. And I get 3, 7, 5, 1, which in fact was what I divided by. Alright, so now that we've warmed up with some old school log division, we're going to tackle polynomial log division. So let's just answer a few questions first. What expression multiplied by x will give me x cubed? What would you multiply x by to give us x cubed? So x times what equals x cubed? Hopefully we're all saying x squared. When I multiply, I add those exponents. 1 plus 2 gets me 3. What expression multiplied by 2x gets me 6x to the 5th? So I'm saying, what am I going to multiply 2x by to get me 6x to the 5th? Well, 2 times what is 6? That would be a 3. And x times x to the what is a 5? Hopefully you're saying x to the 4th. One last one. What expression is multiplied by 7x to get me 14x to the 3rd? So 7x times what equals 14x to the 3rd? Hopefully you're saying 7 times 2 is 14, and x times x squared is x cubed. So here are some general guidelines for long division. So let's get them written down neatly in our notebook. You can box them in, put them in colors. But here, like I said, are the guidelines. Make sure terms in both the dividend and the divisor are ordered from largest degree to smallest degree. The next one, very, very important. Let's star this. If a term is missing, use 0 as a placeholder. So if you're missing a term, for example, if I just went from x squared to 7 without having an x in there, I would have to use 0 as a placeholder. Lastly, if you get a remainder of 0, then you have the 2 factors of the polynomial. All right, we're ready to get our feet wet. Divide 2x squared plus 5x plus 3 by x plus 1. So we're going to set it up like a long division problem. So the first thing I want to say to myself is I'm dividing by x plus 1. I'm going to put that out front. And remember, we have to have these in order from largest degree down to smallest degree. Well, x to the first, and then I have 0 x's. So that's perfect. Divided by, now again, I want to make sure they're in order from largest degree to smallest degree. 2x squared plus 5x plus 3. And notice no terms are missing, so we're in good shape there. All right, so all we're going to do is compare the leading coefficient. Perhaps we need to write that down for ourselves. Compare the leading coefficient. So I'm going to squeeze it in at the top. Compare the leading coefficient. All right, and I'm just going to highlight my leading coefficient in red, and you can do the same on your paper. I'm just comparing the leading, the one in front, the two coefficients, and I'm saying, what will I multiply x by to get 2x squared? What will I multiply x by to get 2x squared? Well, let's start with the number. What number times 1 will get me 2? Well, that's a 2. And x times what will get me x squared? X. So I'm saying my first is going to be 2x. Okay, so now I take that and I multiply it by this term. So 2x times x is 2x squared, and 2x times 1 is a positive 2x. Okay, now we're going to wrap that in parentheses and put a minus sign out front because we're subtracting. The biggest problem that you're going to make with long division is distributing the negative. So let's be real smart about it. That's why we're going to wrap this in parentheses and put the negative out front. So I'm actually going to change my negative to a positive, and I'm going to make my 2 negative and this 2 negative as well. And now I'm going to add them together. And how do you know if you did it right? Well, the leading term should cancel. Positive 2x squared and negative 2x squared are gone. And I'm left with 5x minus 2x, so I get a 3x. Now bring the next term down. It's a positive 3. And we're going to do the same rule. We're going to compare only the leading coefficients. So I'm going to use my red x that I've underlined here with this leading coefficient here, just the first number. And I'm going to say, what will I multiply x by to get 3x? And hopefully you're saying a positive 3. Now go through and multiply. The 3 times the x plus 3 gets me 3x plus 3. Wrap it in parentheses and put your negative out front because we're subtracting. Okay, now we're going to make that a positive and distribute the negative, negative, negative. And if I did it right, the leading coefficients should cancel. 3x and negative 3x are gone, and 3 minus 3 result in 0. So I have a remainder of 0, which is fantastic. That tells me that I'm done and that my two factors are x plus 1 and 2x plus 3. So let's jot down what we've just discovered. X plus 1 and 2x plus 3 are factors of 2x squared plus 5x plus 3. Now here's a little trick to see if you're right. All you have to do is take the two factors and multiply them together. Since we divided to get them, if we multiply, we should end up with this answer. So let's real quickly FOIL this out. So I'm going to get 2x squared plus 3x. My inner terms are plus 2x. My outers plus 3. So you'll notice I get 2x squared plus 5x plus 3. So check, we know we've done it right, and we've just completed our first problem on long division. Hopefully, you're not feeling too overwhelmed, but we'll practice a few more. Alright, now this one has a little hiccup in it. See if you can find it. Divide 2x cubed minus 4x squared plus 2 by 2x minus 2. Alright, so let's set it up and see if you found anything goofy. So I'm going to start by my divisor, and they're in order from least to greatest already. So 2x minus 2 divided by, alright, so I want to go from largest to smallest. 2x cubed, then would be a minus 4x squared. Have you caught it? We're missing the x term. So if you look back at our guidelines there, we said we're going to use a placeholder of 0. So I'm going to say I have 0 x's and then plus 2. Okay, so again, I want to make sure I'm in order from least to smallest, 3, 2, 1, and none. And since I don't have any, I'm going to use 0 as the placeholder. Alright, so now we just play the game again. We're only going to compare the leading coefficients. So let's underline those two in red, or whatever color you've got, and ask ourselves, 2x times what is going to get me 2x cubed? Well, 2 times 2 is already good. X times what is x cubed? Hopefully you said x squared. Okay, so now I'm going to take this x squared and multiply it through. So that gets me 2x cubed minus 2x squared. Remember to wrap her in parentheses and put a negative out front. Okay, I'm going to change that negative to a positive and distribute my negative, which will change those signs. If I did it right, these two terms should disappear. That's the whole point. And now I have negative 4x squared and a positive 2x squared, leaves me with a negative 2x squared. And I'm going to bring down the next term. So I'm going to say plus 0 x's. Alright, so grab that nice colored pencil and we're going to compare the leading coefficients. How does 2x get multiplied and become negative 2x squared? Well, I'm thinking a negative 1 and an x. So I'm going to say negative x. Okay, so I'm going to multiply this negative x by these two terms. So that'll leave me with negative 2x squared plus 2x. Okay, we're going to wrap that up, put a minus sign out front, and then I'm going to change my sign. So this is going to become positive and this is going to become negative. If I did it right, when I add these together, these should cancel, which they do, and 0x minus 2x is going to be negative 2x. Bring that last term down, plus 2, and again, compare the leading coefficients. 2x times what is going to be negative 2x? Well, hopefully we're saying a negative 1. I'll multiply that through, so I get negative 2x plus 2. Negative 2x plus 2. Wrap it in parentheses with a minus sign. Change that minus to addition, and we'll make that positive and that negative. So those cancel, and 2 minus 2 is 0 for my remainder. Bam, we love it. We know we did it right. So I'm saying that my two factors are 2x minus 2 and x squared minus x minus 1. Now, I'm going to multiply those out just to prove that we did it right. 2x minus 2 and x squared minus x minus 1. Okay, so we talked about multiplying polynomials a while ago, and we said we're going to use that distributive property when they start to get large. So I'm taking 2x, and I'm going to distribute it to each of these terms. So it's not foiling when there's 2 and 3 terms. So 2x times x squared, I've got plus 2x times negative x plus 2x times negative 1. And then I'm going to do the same with this negative 2. I should do it in blue. Negative 2 times each of those three terms. So negative 2 times x squared negative 2 times negative x, and negative 2 times negative 1. And I'm just going to slow down and clean those up. So this gets me 2x cubed minus 2x squared minus 2x minus 2x squared plus 2x plus 2. And if I just put those like terms together, I'm going to get 2x cubed. This will be minus 4x squared. Those will cancel, and I'll have a plus 2. And if you take a look, that should be what we divided there. 2x cubed minus 4x squared plus 2. All right, how confident are you feeling? Do you think you can handle this one on your own? Well, let me get you set up, and then really pause it and try it on your own. All right, so my divisor is 7x minus 1, and my dividend, do you notice that it's in the wrong order? We have to go from largest degree to smallest degree, so make sure you start with that 7x cubed. And then I have a negative 8x squared minus 13x plus 2. All right, so one last reminder, you're just comparing the leading coefficients. Pause it, good luck, and we'll see what we get. So I'll show some of my in-between steps. I decided x squared, I would multiply by 7x to get 7x cubed. So I chose x squared. I had 7x minus x squared, put my minus outside, changed my sign, so I was left with negative 7x squared. Brought down my 13x. In my next section, I said 7x times a negative x would get me negative 7x squared, so I used negative x. And I had negative 7x squared plus x. Put my minus sign out, changed my signs, and I ended up with negative 14x, brought down my 2. And lastly, I'm going to say I'm going to multiply by a negative 2, so it would get me a negative 14x plus 2. And when I wrap that up and put my minus sign out front, I'm going to change this to addition, change those signs, I get a remainder of 0. Woohoo! So again, that just tells me that the factors of this polynomial are 7x minus 1 and x squared minus x minus 2. All right, divide x cubed minus 27 by x minus 3. So my divisor is the x minus 3. Now be careful with our dividend here. Do you notice there's a lot of terms missing? I can't just go from x cubed to 27. So I'm going to start at x cubed is the largest degree. And remember, we're going to use that 0 placeholder for anybody that's missing. So I'm going to say plus 0x squareds plus 0x's, and then I can say minus 27. Okay, so it's really important that you put those 0 placeholders in for any term that's missing. All right, so let's just match up the leading coefficients. I'm going to multiply x by x squared to get x cubed. So I would say that's x squared minus, x cubed minus 3x squared. Wrap it up, put a minus sign out front, change my signs. Those should cancel, and I get a total of 3x squared. Bring down the next term, so plus 0x's, and again compare those leading coefficients. X times what is 3x squared? Hopefully we're saying a positive 3x. So that gets me 3x squared minus 9x. I'm going to wrap, oops, there's my pen. Wrap that up in parentheses, put my negative out front, change my signs. So that gets me a 9x, and bring down my minus 27. Compare those first terms. I'm going to multiply by a positive 9. So I get my 9x minus 27. Wrap it up. Change those signs. And again, I get a remainder of 0. Man, do we love when that happens. So that just tells me that my factors are x minus 3 and x squared plus 3x plus 9. Now this one's even a little uglier, because you'll notice in the divisor, we're also missing terms. So same idea, you're still going to use a placeholder of 0 anytime you're missing terms. So I'm going to say I have x cubed plus 0x squared plus 0x minus 1 divided by x to the 6th plus 0x to the 5th plus 4x to the 4th plus 0x cubed plus 0x squared minus 4x minus 1. Okay, so it's so important that anytime you don't have those terms in there, we're using that 0 placeholder. Alright, so here we go. Let's compare those leading coefficients. X cubed times what is x to the 6th? Well, hopefully you said x cubed, and we'll just simply multiply that through, so I get x to the 6th plus, now 0x squared times x cubed, of course, is 0x to the 5th, plus 0x to the 4th minus x cubed. Wrap it up, put my minus sign there, we'll change our sign, so that becomes a negative, a negative, a negative, and a positive. So those cancel, those cancel, those cancel, and I get a positive x cubed. Okay, so I can bring down the next term of 0x squared. And I'm just going to carry all these down because there's only going to be one term left, obviously. So now x cubed times x cubed is just 1, so I know I only have one term left, so a plus 1. So I'm going to get x cubed plus 0x squared plus 0x minus 1. Wrap it up, change my signs, negative, 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 positive, and I get that nice remainder of 0. Alright, I've got just one last one for you. A rectangle has an area of 5x to the 5th minus 19x to the 4th, etc., and a length of x minus 5. What is the width of the rectangle? Alright, so I drew out my rectangle and I said, okay, an area has a length and a width, and I'm going to start with my formula. Area equals length times width. Now they're telling me the area and they're telling me the length. They want me to find the width. So to solve this problem, I'm just simply going to divide both sides by the length. So I know my width is equal to the area divided by the length. So to find that width, I'm just going to say, okay, I need to divide my area by my length. My length is x minus 5. And I'm going to divide by that huge area polynomial. 5x to the 5th minus 19x to the 4th minus 36x cubed plus 36x squared minus 39x plus 45. Now you'll notice I wasn't missing any terms, so again you would just really take your time and divide those out, and whatever you get for your quotient would be the width. Well, like I said, I'm not going to divide all those out right now. I think we've got enough practice, and we'll get some more tomorrow in class. If you have any questions, feel free to stop by in the morning, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Have a great night.